Welcome back to Story Time with Maggie. Today we are going to relax and de-stress with a particularly hilarious story that I find quite relatable as well. But before we get started, let me tell you about these chips because this is also a little bit dating related. If you were in Korea in 2014, you would know that these chips were a sensation. They were so popular that you could not find them anywhere. Every convenience store, grocery store, even online, they were sold out everywhere. So, being the cute little flirt that I was, I even tried to get a guy I was interested in to be interested in me by getting my hands on a bag of these chips and giving them to him. It did not work out. He didn't like them. But I think they're pretty good. And maybe you can give them a chance too if you ever get to. If you ever get a chance to give them a chance, you should. So, today's story that I've prepared is also a dating story. It's written from the perspective of the woman. As you know, I do like the women's perspective stories. So, let's begin. This girl says, my college classmate contacted me asking if I wanted to go on a blind date this weekend. This is kind of a cultural difference for sure. Not kind of, it is for sure a cultural difference. Wherein Korea actually does this really, really normally. In the West, blind dates have kind of gone out of style. We mostly hook ourselves up these days. But in Korea, it's super, super normal. Like, I have a single friend, you have a single friend, let's put them together and make a blind date. The difference is it's not so blind. They do usually exchange like a picture. But so this is pretty normal. So our protagonist here has no reason to believe that anything will be strange because it's just a usual occurrence to get set up on a blind date. So the picture looks okay. The guy's kind of handsome. They decide to meet. And unfortunately, that's the last part of this story that goes well. Because right off the bat, he comes 15 minutes late. She says, 저보다 가까운 곳에서 오면서 15분이나 늦게 왔더라고요. So even though he's coming from a closer location, she was on time and he was 15 minutes late. But the weather was hot and it was rush hour, so she gave him the benefit of the doubt. She's already establishing herself as a pretty kind lady. He arrives and they decide to go to a restaurant for their first date, which is, you know, pretty much similar to us, right? We go to a restaurant or go to a movie first, so we have something to talk about. So this is normal except for him being late. But she says this restaurant called Heidi Lao is kind of famous for its really fragrant, aromatic food. And she says she can't eat that kind of stuff. She can't stomach it. And the guy brushes her off and he says, it's fine, you can control the level of aromatic fragrance in the food. But it turns out that's not the case. She took one bite and she could not stomach it, so she ended up not eating anything at all. But even though his date partner's not eating, the dude is adding meat and ramen and all sorts of other stuff, really like chowing down during this date while she's not eating. And during the conversation, he asks her, she says weird questions. I'm going to change her words and say inappropriate questions because his first question was, 연애 몇 번 해봤어요? How many times have you been in a relationship? I cannot express how terrible an idea this is. Do not ask this question if you like the girl at all. Do not make this your first question on a first date. Don't, you know what? Don't ask that question until you guys are like a full couple because it's none of your business and it's rude. But it gets worse. He says, 이런 날씨에 화장 그렇게 많이 하면 안 더워요? Isn't it hot to put on that much makeup in this heat? None of your business, dude. Like, if you don't like it, end the date, you know? This is my face. This is my makeup. If you hate how much makeup I'm wearing, goodbye. See you later. We're not compatible. Why are you asking questions like that? And then he also asks about her car horn, like what does her car horn sound like? Which, yeah, it is weird. That's just, why do you care? So Anyway, so she's figuring, okay, this date sucks. So she just kind of gives him rough answers and doesn't answer that well. But so the meal finishes, he pays, which he should have because he ate everything. And she's like, well, let's even it out a bit and go to a cafe. I'll get a coffee. And so they go to Starbucks. She gets an iced Americano, and he orders some frappuccino with a really long name. But as soon as it comes out, as soon as the coffee comes out, he chugs it in one shot. Can you believe that? Like, who gets a sweet, yummy frappuccino just to chug it? Fun fact, in Korean, the word for chugging is one shot, not like Korean words like han shot or something. It's literally one shot. So when they're going chug, 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 they're really saying one shot, one shot. So, you know, that's just fun. It's good to know if you ever party with Koreans. But actually, you know what? Chugging's not such a bad thing because it means the date can be over faster, right? She can go home quicker. So she says, now that he's chugged it, she says, all right, well, let's say goodbye because I have to work in the morning anyway. And then this guy, this weird dude, has the audacity to ask her for a ride home. Now, there's no cultural difference here at all. It is equally as weird in Korea as it is in the US or anywhere else to get in a stranger's car and say, please take me home. It's odd. If he had asked me, I would say, absolutely not. You're not getting in my car. I am a single woman. You are a single man. Stay away from me in my car. But this woman is very nice. She's very kind and patient. She says, 완전 반대였지만, so even though it was completely the opposite of where she needed to go, she decided to take him home anyway to get the Good Manners Award since he had mutual. So he had mutual friends and colleagues. So she didn't want to make bad blood, bad rumors and stuff. So she decides to let him ride in her car. They go to the parking lot together and they get in the car. And then when she looks at him, he's sweating like buckets, like sweating bullets. Just his face is just bleh. She says it's hudugo, flowing sweat. And he says he needs to go to the bathroom. Ooh, already it's uncomfortable, right? Anybody sweating and saying, I need to go to the bathroom is a red flag for me. I would, again, get out of my car. So she's in a bit of a hurry. So she says, look, there's a hospital nearby. I'll drop you off there. And so they pull out and they're on the way to the hospital when suddenly she hears something that she just does not want to imagine. But then it's confirmed. When the smell hits and she realizes, she thinks, 설사를 하신 것 같은데. I think you have diarrhea. Probably he has diarrhea. Now, she probably didn't say this out loud because Koreans tend to not talk about bodily functions. If you fart, if you sneeze, if you cough, if you yawn, nobody says anything. You sneeze and the room is silent. You fart and the room is silent. You don't even say, oh, pardon me. Nothing. We don't acknowledge the bodily sounds in Korea. So she heard this horrific nightmare sound, smelled the bowels of hell, and probably kept her mouth shut like a nice person. But as soon as they arrived at the hospital, the blind date guy jumps out of the car, and she can see that there's a residue on the passenger seat. I would have screamed. I would have jumped out of the car, grabbed the man by his collar, and said, get back here and clean this mess. I don't care. I would have been so unhappy. She says, 진짜 울고 싶었어요. I really wanted to cry. But what's even more amazing is, after going to the bathroom, this asshole ghosted her. She says, 이 새끼가 화장실에 간 뒤에 잠수를 탄 것입니다. After going to the bathroom, this jerk ghosted me. 잠수 is ghosting. I don't know how terrible that is, actually, because maybe I don't ever want to hear from him. But she didn't get a single call or text message, no apology, no offer to clean the car, nothing. This guy shit on the seat and left and never even said, "I'm sorry." She says, "That night I left the windows open and went home crying without even turning my head toward the passenger seat." I would do exactly the same thing. I would just pretend it didn't exist. I wonder if she had fabric seats or leather seats, because fabric seats you have to shampoo, and that's really horrible. The smell does not go away that easily. Somebody had an accident in my car when I was a teenager, and he was a classmate, and that was rough. And I had fabric seats, and my car smelled bad for a week. So I can imagine her pain. Finally, she ends the story by saying, 이 새끼 아직도 연락 없네요. This guy still hasn't contacted me. I'm impressed with how kind she is. She seems like the Buddha of blind dates. So what do you think? What would you have done on this date? Personally, I think I would have ended the date a lot sooner than she did. But our blind date Buddha is a lot nicer lady than anyone else, I think. So tell me what you thought. Leave a comment, leave a like, hit subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss any of our new uploaded videos. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget to control your bowels and have some yummy chips before you leave. Bye-bye.